Hey guys, welcome back to the podcast and welcome to the final part of my birth series on the podcast. So I've done 3 episodes so far about pregnancy and birth, and I so appreciate you listening to those if you did. If not yet, you can totally go back and listen to them after this one if this interests you. So far I've shared a behind the scenes of pregnancy and about my decision to choose a home birth and preparing for a VBAC and all of that kind of stuff. So that was the first episode. Then after that was Sofia's home birth story. And then last week was a Q&A with 15 questions about all things birth. And then this week I'm sharing about postpartum advice. So those past episodes were episodes 318, 319, and 320. If you want to go back and just literally right behind this one and find those, definitely go get them a listen. But in this episode, we're talking postpartum. And instead of me sharing about my personal postpartum experience, when I was thinking about what do I want to say in this episode, I decided I actually just want to give advice because I think that's much more helpful for you guys. So here are things I've learned after doing this postpartum newborn season thing 3 times after 3 very different births with 3 different children. Right now, as I'm recording this, I'm 3 months postpartum. I think Sofia is about 14 weeks right now. So that's kind of where I'm coming at you from. And these are the postpartum advice things that I feel like you don't hear often, or at least not explained this way. And some you may literally not hear anywhere else. So I'm trying to hit things that you're not just going to get, not just your basic postpartum things. And we're focused less here on postpartum recovery and more about just lifestyle of adjusting to a new baby, a new addition to your family, and all of that kind of stuff. So really excited, 11 things, potentially a bonus one if I feel like I have time. So let's get into it. Hey guys, I'm Elizabeth McCravey, an online educator for entrepreneurs, website designer, wife, boy mom, and your host for the Breakthrough Brand podcast, the show that's all about pulling back the curtain on how to actually build a successful business. I don't skim the surface around here. If you want to dive deep into the nitty-gritty details of what it takes to run a sustainable business that fits your unique lifestyle while standing out in a crowd, then you are in the right place. I created a multiple 6-figure-a-year business in my early 20s, and now in my 30s, I'm still running that successful multiple 6-figure-a-year business on just part-time hours now as a working mom. I'm here to share everything I've learned and everything I'm still learning because I believe that the keys to building a thriving business should never be a secret. Here you'll find episodes that are actionable, direct, and fun, like friends chatting business over coffee, and a fresh, honest take on the reality of being an entrepreneur. If you're ready to master online marketing, website design, personal branding, mindset, time management as a busy parent, scalable and passive income, and business strategy, then this is the podcast for you. It's time to build your breakthrough brand. Let's do this. Okay, so like I said, I'm coming to you right now at 3 months postpartum with my 3rd baby, Sofia, and I have 2 boys, Colin and Ethan, that were born. Colin's 4 years old now, and Ethan is 1.5 years old, and now we got a new baby in the house. So I will say, just to start, I'm not going to really share much about my specific postpartum experience. It'll be obviously weaved into my advice here. But I want to just say to start, I have truly had my best postpartum experience yet. And in some of these advice pieces I'm going to give you, I'll be explaining how this was the best yet. And I'm so grateful for that. And I think so many factors play into that being true. And I want to say too, don't compare your postpartum experience to someone else's because it is so many factors that go into what makes the experience feel easier or harder. But with it being a 3rd baby and more kids, it is kind of crazy to me to think about how this time with 2 additional children to take care of and a husband going back to work way sooner and a business to run, all those things, it still has felt easier this time than with my first when I was just adjusting to having 1 child. So it doesn't necessarily get harder every time. But yeah, I've just had such a sweet, sweet postpartum season. I truly just loved these months and then continuing to love just being a mom of 3. It just feels so amazing. I'm really loving our family of 5 life. So that's just a little life update, I guess you could say, as I head into this and a little context of our family as well. So now let's get into these 11 pieces of advice for postpartum that you may not have necessarily heard before or heard in this way. So that could tell any mom some advice after having a baby. This is what I would tell you. And again, this applies whether it's your first baby, your second, your third, all of it and beyond, just things that I think are helpful to know in advice pieces. Okay, no particular order. Number 1, None of these difficulties of postpartum last forever. And remind yourself of that when it's hard. Just truly the first year of a baby's life, and even beyond that, but especially the first year, I mean, things are constantly changing, like week by week, day by day in those early days. Like it just is changing so much. And for me as a third-time mom, this piece of advice that like the difficulties don't last forever, it's really easy for me to see because I've done this twice and I'm able to see like, oh yeah, like this was hard last time too, but it didn't last forever and it ends quickly. And like, I expect that the 3-month sleep regression is coming and that sort of thing. So it's not as easy to see though as a first time mom when everything feels so new. And so I just feel like I know how fast it flies, especially since my second born Ethan truly just felt like a baby himself. He's 19 months right now as I'm recording this. And it's like, yeah, like the close age gap even shows me how fast it goes. But seriously, when things are hard, I just want you to remind yourself, none of it lasts that long. Okay. So we can give you some examples that are real examples as I think back in the last 3 months. So the baby won't always be awake with you until you go to sleep, like you do in the newborn phase where, if you're going to bed at 9, they go to bed with you. If you're going to bed at 10, they go to bed with you. They're waking up throughout the night. Like eventually your baby is going to have a bedtime around like 7:30 would be my recommendation. And then you'll have evenings back again where you're able to just do something for yourself. So it doesn't last forever. So this time I feel like I was able to really enjoy those evenings where like we got the boys down and then Sofia sitting up with us and staying with us till bedtime because I'm like, yeah, I know this is like, that's already ended, right? At 3 months postpartum for us, that's already ended. Nursing won't always be like 45 minutes long and every 2 hours, or whatever the schedule is like for you. It does get more spaced out and shorter and all of that kind of thing. Your baby will eventually sleep through the night. I don't know when for your baby. It might even be that they sleep through the night for a while and then they stop and then they start again. That's been my personal experience, but you will eventually sleep through the night again. Going out gets easier, both with your baby and apart from your baby. Like it just does get easier. If you hate swaddling your baby, and maybe your baby hates swaddling, you'll be stopping truly before you know it because your baby's going to outgrow it. Ironically, as I'm recording this today, Sofia is having her first crib nap right now in the Magic Merlin sleep suit, which is what we use as a swaddle transition from swaddle to sleep sack. So like, yeah, we did about 3 months of swaddling and now she's in that next transition thing. Another one, you'll get to an actual nap schedule eventually with less naps too, where it's not feeling like constantly like the baby needs to sleep. So those are just a few things that come to mind that are like maybe some more challenging things that is like, yes, like these pass really quickly. So try to know they pass quickly and enjoy the pieces of it that you want to and can enjoy. Some other things that you really love also go by quickly. And so I feel like I've been reminded that too this season of like, yes, like the hard things pass quickly, but so do these like amazing, precious, sweet things about the newborn phase. I feel like I want to have as a permanent photo and video in my brain forever. Like for example, contact naps. Like, so yes, older kids and toddlers can still do contact naps, but it will become really rare and you will miss it. So I've really been loving those. That little newborn stretch when they're all scrunched up and they come out of the swaddle, all the cooing, just being able to just lay around and look in your baby's eyes and kind of babble at each other when your baby is happy, just kind of being held. All the gazillions of firsts that come, like a first smile, first laugh, rolling, grabbing something, all of it, like all of those things are just so sweet and precious and it does fly by. So just remember that little quote, the days are long, but the years are short, is such a true statement about parenting. And you'll find your groove in a newer normal soon than you probably think. But again, it's just always changing. Like I feel like the schedule is just always shifting in that first year. And you will get to a point where it feels like you have more stability in the way your baby's eating, the way the naps are, and all of that, if that's something you feel like you crave and thrive on. Okay. I've given birth to 3 children in the US without ever having traditional health insurance. And no, we didn't just pay those huge medical bills out of pocket each time. We found an affordable healthcare solution we truly love, Christian Healthcare Ministries. CHM is a faith-based alternative to health insurance at half the cost. You can enroll at any time and join a proven faith-based solution that's both reliable and affordable. My family has been members for over 5 years now, and CHM shared all expenses for all 3 of my children's births from C-section to home birth. They even shared things like pelvic floor therapy and lactation consulting, which were both such huge blessings for birth prep and postpartum. And outside of birth, we've had our hard moments of emergency room visits and surgeries, and those costs were all shared by members at Christian Healthcare Ministries, leaving us only paying our monthly contribution. I seriously just can't recommend CHM enough. It's not just financial support, it's spiritual support when you need it most. Learn more at elizabethmccravy.com/CHM. That link is in the show notes too. And if you want the full story, Adam and I did a whole episode on our experience, so check out episode 305 of this podcast. Again, that's elizabethmccravy.com/CHM. Now back to today's show. Second thing, postpartum tip. This is more about for you as a mom. Getting ready for the day can be very mood boosting. I've talked about this on other episodes of the podcast when I did a postpartum, like about my own experience after both of my boys' births. So I'll link those in the show notes if you want to listen to those as well. But I talked about this on the last one after Ethan was born of just how mood boosting it was for me to just get a little bit ready. So I'm not talking about like jeans and a fancy shirt or wearing a dress or whatever and doing your hair all crazy. I truly just mean even like sweatpants or leggings you feel good in, and a nursing or pumping friendly top with like a little bit of makeup on, and taking a shower and washing your hair. So again, that's truly been one of my best postpartum hacks for myself. Like, not kidding. It is crazy how much my mood shifts when I go from like wearing pajamas and not having showered and not having on makeup and just still wearing my glasses versus putting contacts in and that sort of thing. So I don't do that every day in early postpartum, but especially in that first month, like it was huge for me to just get ready every few days and do things like blow dry my hair, put on some makeup. And that is true. Even if like I'm looking at the day ahead and I'm like, I'm only going to be at home, or the only place I'm going this today is to the pediatrician and the Starbucks drive-thru. Doesn't matter. It still helped me feel better, feel more like myself, to just get a little bit put together. And on that note, I would highly recommend buying yourself some cute clothes and like lounge sets and PJs for postpartum that you can wear and be excited about and feel comfortable and beautiful in, and maybe size up on them as well. But finding just a few for like whatever season clothing you need for postpartum. For me, it was like hot summer. Now we're kind of getting into fall, but those first few months is really hot outside. But having some sets and outfits that are going to be easy for nursing if you are nursing or pumping, but then also are going to make you feel comfortable. And I love getting those new items. I also often just pick out stuff from Amazon, like just search for sets and find some stuff that looks cute. And, you can return it really easily if it doesn't work. So anyway, that's number 2, just getting ready a little bit for the day. And again, that's something that works for me. And so for you, if you're hearing me say that, you're like, man, like the idea of doing that actually just feels like it's going to stress me out and be more work, then maybe that tip is not for you. But at least for me, if I've had times in postpartum where I'm feeling down and feeling stressed and anxious, that helps. Okay, third thing, take the rest and slowness that postpartum is inviting you into. So I have a lot to say about this. So first, it's okay to hog your baby. It's okay to just lay in bed and have other people bring you things. I think too often after having a baby, again, whether it's your first baby or your third baby, we can have this impulse that we need to like get back to it right away, and you don't, I promise. And I think too, the impulse can feel worse for you if you feel like birth went easier or better. So you're like, I don't actually need all this recovery time. So you try to just get back to things quicker than you should. So for me, with this third baby, I actually rested my best this third postpartum than I did with my first or second, which again feels really crazy in the context of when I think about our lives, because it's my third postpartum. I actually had my easiest recovery from birth because I had a really straightforward, no intervention birth this time. So it's like your recovery should be faster. And I also have 2 other kids. So in theory, I could say to myself, or someone could say to me, like, Elizabeth, your recovery is easy because of a simple home birth, and you have multiple kids to care for already. So you need to get back to it sooner. You should not be laying in bed resting. You need to be like doing things for your other children. You could kind of tell yourself that. But I didn't tell myself that. And I actually didn't have anyone telling me that, which I'm so grateful for. So like, if you have that voice in your head for like subsequent pregnancies and births, or from birth being really simple and therefore seeming like you don't need a longer recovery, let me be the person to tell you to take the longer recovery. So my midwife actually encouraged me to rest really big, and I did. And I'd say I even, like I said, rested longer and better than after my C-section. But specifically, if you missed the other episodes, this was my first home birth, and it was so different, the postpartum care, than with my other two births, which my first birth was the care was through a birth center and my second, the care was through a hospital. But with home birth, I was really surprised because I saw my midwife, Aubrey, 4 to 5 appointments before I even got to 6 weeks postpartum. And I compare that to my other births where it was like no one checked on me and I did not see a doctor or midwife or have any guidance until that 6-week appointment that we all know about. You have your baby, you leave the hospital, you don't see anyone for 6 weeks. And even that appointment, I remember kind of being like, what's the point? Because it felt like nothing was even really checked on. And then there's this like mental health screening that they ask you a few questions and that's kind of it. But with this time, I feel like I had so much care and support. And I think that really helped me a ton with postpartum healing. It helped me rest. So every appointment, Aubrey comes to our home for these appointments. She's in our bedroom while I'm laying in bed. And I would be asking her like, should I do this or that now? Can I like start going up and down the stairs again? Like, what's your advice on this? And she kept encouraging me like, no, just keep resting, keep letting other people do things for you right now and just focus on rest. And I really did just love the resting this time around and really like embraced the slowness. And that's like the advice I would give you is embrace the slowness, take the rest. And I really just can't emphasize enough how much I loved like those first 2 months postpartum and how well taken care of I felt. Again, I loved the slowness. I loved having family help and support. And I loved not being the one who was in charge of like meals, doing the laundry and things like that, which we're going to talk about more in some of these other tips coming up. Now, I did still do things. And I will say, in this postpartum, it was hard for me at times feeling more disconnected from my older two kids because I was with them less, okay? But they also were really happy because we had a lot of family in and out and they got tons and tons of attention in that way. And I did make a point when I think about like the first 2 months and first month even, like I was not doing their bedtimes every night. Normally, Adam and I, we'd each take one kid each night and then alternate the next night. When we only had 2, that was kind of how we did it. So I was doing a lot less bedtimes, but then I would still make a point to be like, oh man, I'm really feeling like me and Ethan haven't connected well today. I really want to do his bedtime. So there were things like that happening still, but I was doing a lot less. And the boys, again, even with me being more like laying in bed in baby mode, they still were having so much fun. Again, it's not forever. Like your kids are going to be okay with you being around them less while you focus on the baby. But there's a postpartum ritual that I want to talk about called the 5-5-5 rule. And there's multiple versions of it, but the typical one goes like this. It means, let's talk about after you have your baby, 5 days in bed, 5 days around the bed, and then 5 days around the house. Okay. So in bed, around your room, around the house. And there's another version that's more intense where it goes 5 days in bed, 5 days on the bed, 5 days around the bed, and then 5 days around the house. So it's basically slowly moving you as a woman who just had a baby from being in the bed, resting completely, to being around your house and then out and about. So like just a slow process there. So I encourage you to read up on that 5-5-5 rule. There's tons of blogs and articles out there about it. Share it with your spouse, share it with your family who will be around supporting you, and tell them you want to try it. And again, if this is your second and you're like, I did not rest at all after my first. Okay, that was totally me. I did not rest well after my first. Do it this time. It doesn't have to be like, again, it doesn't need to be that like, oh, I can only do that when it's my first baby and there's not other kids to take care of. Like, no, you can do a version of this with your next baby as well. So just, talk to your spouse, talk to other family members. And again, tell them like, hey, this is my plan so I can heal better and quicker. And I want to rest in bed and really bond with my baby. And as I'm talking about like the really taking rest and the slowness that's postpartum is inviting you into, it can so often feel like you just did this huge thing. You're trying to like get back to all the things so quickly. Your body just went through something huge. And again, I don't care what kind of birth you had when I say that, like your body just did something huge and it needs all these different things to rest and recover. You need to be feeding yourself well. You need to be resting. You need to try to get sleep when you can. That's why we try to sleep when the baby sleeps and all of that kind of stuff. So just know that like, even if you feel like I'm feeling pretty good at a few weeks postpartum, your body still has a lot more recovering to do. And you just did something huge and you need to give your body time to recover from that. So anyway, I could say a lot more about that one, but I'm going to leave it there. Take the rest and slowness and look up that 5-5-5 rule. And I did that with my last 2 babies, but not with my first. Can't recommend it enough.
Okay, and number 4, I actually just realized I had misnumbered all these in my outline. So I actually have 12 things, not 11. So this is number 4, and it goes along with number 3. But ask for and accept help. And I have some specific advice pieces around this that we're going to get into here. But again, this is true whether it's your first baby or your third baby. It's just going to change what people are helping with each time you have a baby. So with more kids, there's more help that's going to be needed because, right, like it might be that this time with your second and third, people are helping with your other children, whereas with your first, it might feel like it's more help with things around the house and things with the newborn. And I know not everyone has the support system or local family to be able to have the help they want in postpartum, and I totally get that. And I pray that if you are in a situation where it feels like having help is just so hard, that you will have someone come into your life that you can ask for help or have family travel to stay with you and help and those sorts of things. And I would just encourage you to pray about and seek out who you could ask to be like this helping hand in the postpartum season to you and your spouse. So a few ways though to ask for help and advice. Again, everything's so specific to you and your family, your friend situation, all of that. But here's some advice I would give around this. And I have 4 specific things within this point. So things to help you with asking for and accepting help. Okay. First one, this one makes me laugh a little, but get a postpartum help checklist that you can put on your fridge for people to see when they come over. So this is the more passive way to direct people who are already going to be in your house because you just had a new baby with ways they can actually help. Okay. So this was really helpful for us with my first baby when this felt new to everyone. For some of our family, this is like the first grandchild, the first time we're all doing this thing. And I didn't even really know what kind of help I would want, honestly. Like the idea of having like my in-laws and my mother like in my house, like doing things for me felt very odd and different than what I was used to when they would visit and I was in like hostess mode. But I took a birth course from My Essential Birth. Shout out to Stephanie. I just adore her. And I actually shared Ethan's first story on her podcast, Pregnancy and Birth Made Easy. But I took her birth course my first time around as a first-time mom, and she had lessons in it about postpartum. She now also has a postpartum course that I've heard great things about. But in that course, she had a PDF you could print out to just stick on your fridge or send to family members with ways to help in postpartum. So I did this. I printed it out. I put it on our fridge. I may have even emailed it to people, y'all. I don't remember, but I feel like I kind of remember potentially emailing it to it would have just been to like our parents if I had done that. But like, I was able to like say, oh yeah, guys, the birth course I took recommended printing this list, just some ideas for ways you can help when you're here visiting if you want to read it. Like it's just very, very casual, very chill and relaxed. But that list from Stephanie had things on it like take out the trash, wipe down kitchen counters, hold the baby so mom or dad can take a shower, take the other kids out of the house for an activity, make a pot of coffee, fold the laundry, prepare a meal, things like that. But yeah, consider just making a little list that you could put on the fridge and be like, here are some ideas if you need help. A great, like, more passive way to ask for help that makes you feel uncomfortable, like it did me with my first, to like actually just ask people for what you feel like you need. So that's one idea. Second idea is if you have a family member who you'd be happy to come stay with you after birth in order to help, ask them to. Maybe you don't even have a guest room and they're sleeping in another room in the house, like on the sofa, like whatever it is. Having someone come stay with you, or perhaps they're local and instead of them actually sleeping in your home, it's like they're coming over every morning and staying through kids' bedtimes. For me, with both of my second births, so for Ethan and Sofia's births, it was my mother-in-law, Jan, and both times she came in when I went to labor in order to watch the other children and then just stayed, I want to say for around 4 to 7 days straight, just living with us. And then she'd go back home and then she actually would come back again like a week later to help even more. And that was just so helpful for me. And I'm really, truly beyond blessed to have supported family and a family who like, I'd actually feel like, yeah, like come live with us for a week. That would actually be really helpful. And my mother-in-law in particular, we are super close and I feel like she knows how to take care of me well in postpartum. And it's obviously really great with my kids. So like she took amazing care of me in postpartum and was encouraging me to rest alongside Adam, especially again, like in that first month, whenever she'd be here. And so would other family members too, when they would be around to help. But yeah, if you have someone who you feel like you could ask to like just come stay with you, I think that's more helpful than people just kind of popping in and out, especially again, when you're the mom and you're just going to like stay put back in bed and let like whatever happens in the rest of the house. Having that help with everyone else is really great. third little tip here, say yes more when people offer to help, just to show them that help is appreciated, and say thank you a lot. So this is true in just life. Like if people are offering to help you and they are always met with a, no, thank you though, I've got this on my own, they will probably eventually stop offering because they are going to feel like it's unwanted help. And maybe it is unwanted help, right? Maybe that's why you're saying it. But like if you actually are feeling like, yes, like I want more people to volunteer to unload the dishwasher, even though they aren't going to put everything back in the perfect spot. Then like when someone, like I literally have had the scenario, like my own mother, she unloads my dishwasher. She's like, oh, I'm sorry, I don't know where any of this stuff goes. So I left it on the counter, like saying, no, thank you so much for doing that. That is actually still just so helpful. Even though you left a bunch of stuff out on the counter, like that's helpful. Now we can reload it. Like just saying a big thank you and telling them like, yes, please keep doing that. I appreciate it. I don't care if you fold the laundry. That's another thing my own sweet mom would say is like, I know I might fold the laundry different than you. And I'm like, I literally don't care at all. I don't even have a specific way. I'm always folding the laundry. So like, yes, any help is helpful. I also like something I like to do for my own friends in postpartum, and I've had friends do for me, is like when I'm going through the drive-thru at Starbucks to get a drink, if I have the time and availability to just be like, hey, like I want to get you a Starbucks drink. What's your order? And I'm going to leave it on your front doorstep. No need to talk, no need to hang out. And like, saying yes to those kind of offers just to show appreciation and, obviously saying thank you. So I think that's a great way to like encourage help of like when people are doubtful of like if what they're doing is going to be helpful, tell them it is and say thank you. My fourth one within this tip, if family support or friend support isn't an option, consider hiring a postpartum doula to come help you in those early days. We had postpartum doula help some of the time when Colin, my first actually, was a baby, and it was so super helpful. But they can help you in the night by doing everything but like feeding the baby if you're doing bottles. And they can also help during the day with all sorts of things. And you kind of do hourly, and they come for a certain number of hours. So anyway, that could be a really helpful thing too if you don't have family who you want to come help you. Okay, tip number 5. We're kind of taking a pivot here in what we're talking about. Eat a lot to support breastfeeding and postpartum recovery. So this applies whether you're breastfeeding and pumping or not, because your body needs nutrients and foods for birth recovery, but this especially applies if you're breastfeeding or pumping, nursing, all of it. But if you want to increase your milk supply and help milk come in, keep your energy up all through the sleepless nights and the nursing and the recovery from birth, eat. Okay. I know it sounds funny. Again, the stuff you might not hear people talk about, but eating more food is your friend. So if you look up like things to increase milk supply besides like all the different supplements and things trying to be sold to help with milk supply, a random thing you'll see online is that Oreos are said to increase milk supply. And here's what I'm trying to tell you about just like why you need to just eat. So there's actually no like scientific reason that an Oreo would increase milk supply. There's nothing special about Oreos, although they are delicious. And I saw someone actually say like the reason Oreos increase milk supply is because Oreos release endorphins and make you happy and help you have milk because of that. Anyway, though, but they are delicious, but it's because so many breastfeeding moms are not eating enough. Simply put, that's it. So then when you suddenly eat a few Oreos all at once, you get your calories up, you get fat intake up, and then that can help your milk supply increase, right? So again, this is not advice around eating Oreos. I've not done that as a way to increase milk supply. Although ironically, I did have 2 Oreos last night, but not doing that for milk supply increasing, but I am. And especially in those first few weeks, really just focusing on eating well. When my midwife and I would talk about this, her encouragement to me was like whatever amount I thought I was eating enough in these foods in the first few weeks was enough, probably isn't. So like get another little serving, especially a serving of something that is protein. And I truly did do this. So like, for example, one thing we did a lot in those first few weeks postpartum is we would get chicken salad chick to have on hand for lunch. It's just like the tubs of chicken salad and buy some croissants and, the grape salad. I truly, chicken salad chick is one of my favorite things there. But I would have a plate brought to me in bed from my husband or mother-in-law. And then instead of just like eating whatever they brought, asking for another serving of that chicken salad chick to get more protein in. So this is not a time to focus on weight loss or trying a new diet. It is trying to eat and just let yourself enjoy eating. Again, like enjoy the postpartum season, get your calories up, focus on protein, and eat good foods and drink plenty of water to support breastfeeding and your recovery. Also, as you think about what to eat, especially in those early, like first days postpartum, think warm foods. This is something I learned, I want to say after Ethan was born, that I didn't know with my first, but I found a little quote from an article online that explains why this is helpful. And it says, eating warm foods in postpartum is recommended because they are believed to help restore energy and balance, support digestion, and promote healing and nutrient absorption. Warm cooked meals are easier for the body to digest, which is especially important when the digestive system is sluggish after childbirth. So I wish I had even known that more after my C-section. I was kind of familiar with it then. And then after my first vaginal birth, because I remember after Colin was born, the big thing I focused on was smoothies because they felt really easy for Adam to whip up for me. And then I could just eat with one hand. But this time I tried to really focus on warm cooked meals the most. And I do think it helped with digestion and getting back to feeling like myself. So all this to say though, enjoy yourself, enjoy your food, have a treat, eat the Oreo, have some ice cream, get the extra serving of protein in, drink your water with electrolytes, and just focus on nurturing your body with nutrition. Okay, keeping on the topic of food, okay? Number 6, paper plates, plastic, throwaway diningware are your best friends, okay? You can save the planet another day, but right now you just had a baby. So make life easier by going to paper and plastic. So at the end of pregnancy, I stocked up on paper and plastic plates, plasticware, even paper bowls. And I like to get the nicer plasticware and paperware that you can microwave. And again, paper bowls too, all of it. But I like the plates that I can put in the microwave versus ones that are going to melt if they microwave. You know what I'm saying? And I use this stuff anytime in postpartum where we have a lot of people visiting or where it just feels like it'll make things easier. And a lot of times in those first few weeks, it was really my husband's call and my mother-in-law's call because they were the ones kind of managing all the food, right? But they were just going to the paper plates every time. And it was so, so helpful. And I still do paper plates now at least once a week for dinner just to make cleanup easier. Usually on Friday nights, that's kind of our thing. We'll do pizza and paper plates. And in addition to paper products, like I'm saying, so stock up on all that, right? Use it as needed, run your dishwasher less. And you also have plastic cups. I didn't even say that, but that's another great one. I'm so used to just drinking out of my big water bottle in postpartum that I didn't mention that. But in addition to all that, take other shortcuts in the kitchen. So once you're in a place where you are starting to cook some again, take other shortcuts. So for example, salad kits. We love salad kits in this season. I love the Everything Bagel salad kit by Taylor Farms. I think there's Caesar salad kits. There's so many, but we love salad kits. I make them all the time now. And it's just it's a little more money, a little less healthy, but it is helping me get a salad I'm really going to enjoy on the table quickly. Hilariously, y'all, Ethan's favorite food right now is an Everything Bagel salad kit, which is so funny, but he'll just absolutely devour it. But we love salad kits. Buying pre-cut stuff that's helpful. Keep frozen pizzas on hand or other frozen things outside of freezer meals, which we're going to talk about next. But keep that kind of stuff on hand just to be able to have, just to make things easier. So all I'm saying with this is just when it comes to cooking, when it comes to cleaning your kitchen, if you find a way that you're oh yeah, this random thing is going to make things easier on me right now, but it might be more expensive. It might be less eco-friendly, whatever it is, just do it. Do it for the season. It'll make you happier, make things work better. But yeah, that's one of my little hacks is just paper plates and plastic stuff all the way in postpartum. Okay. Number 7, to continue talking about food. Make freezer meals at the end of pregnancy and then keep that practice up in postpartum when you do start cooking again. So let's talk about this. Freezer meals, best friend in postpartum, second to the plasticware, like I said. And in mom life in general, honestly, I just think freezer meals are a game changer. I personally got into doing freezer meals with my first baby. Like I said, I did it at the end of pregnancy, prepped a whole lot of meals in the freezer. And I never went back. I still make them even when I'm not in that season of preparing for a newborn. And right now I'm 3 months postpartum and I'm just in the last, I guess I would say our freezer meals and meal train lasted for about 2-ish months. So for the last month, I've been back to cooking in the kitchen like I'm used to doing. And last week I spent the extra time, which it was extra time, especially doing it in between naps for Sofia and the boys and in my spare time. But two of the casserole style dishes I made for our dinners last week, I doubled them and froze half of it. And then I also made us 16 frozen breakfast burritos last week that we are now enjoying this week. On some days we want to enjoy them last week on some days. And then I also made the two dishes I doubled. One was a chicken enchilada dish, and then one was a pesto chicken protein pasta. And no, my kids will not eat either of those. Those are things that just me and Adam eat, unfortunately. They're in a pickier stage right now with some things, especially stuff like that. But anyway, I've doubled it and froze some. So let's talk about a few freezer meal tips though. I could do an entire podcast episode truly just on freezer meals. And I think someday if I start a podcast that is specifically related to motherhood, which I would love to do, that's one of my dream business goals for another season. But if I ever do that, which I think I will, this would definitely be like a series I would do on the podcast kind of thing. Cause I think there's so much you can say about this and stuff I wish I had known when I first got into it. But these are just like my rapid fire freezer meal tips for you. Okay. I recommend doing freezer meals between 34 and 38 weeks pregnant. I say that time frame because after 38 weeks pregnant, you're probably going to feel too pregnant to really feel like walking around a kitchen a lot and being on your feet all day cooking. And too much earlier than 34 weeks makes it to where the food's going to go bad faster. For most of these meals, you have about a 3-month runway to eat it, right? Which is great. But then you have to think about like if one of those months is like during your pregnancy, that's really only 2 months into postpartum. Get what I'm saying? So anyway, I would say between 34 and 38 weeks pregnant. Go in with a solid plan for what all you'll be cooking. The way I do it is I plan out exactly the meals I'm going to cook. I try to do some overlapping ingredients, and then I make a whole list of like, these are the things we're doing. This is the ideal order we're even going to prep them in. And then I make a master grocery list from all of that. And then I do my giant grocery order on Instacart that's usually really, really expensive. Get it all delivered the day before in case some things, aren't available at the store. Then you have to go in person and get them again or go to another store or whatever. And then have a big prep day or potentially 2 prep days, depending on how much you're making. Do a mix of breakfast and lunch and dinners. I think it can be easy to just focus on lunch and dinners. But breakfast, guys, things like breakfast burritos, oatmeal muffins, those are like kind of my 2 favorites. And then this time and last time with Ethan, we did French toast casserole, which was definitely not a healthy dish, but a really just delicious, satisfying, and really filling meal that my kids loved too. So that was a really special one that we made a few of. But anyway, do a mix of lunches and dinners and breakfast too. Next tip, get someone to help you with it all. So this is not something that I would necessarily recommend doing alone unless you think you would really just enjoy the alone time of, doing this, listening to a podcast or something, go for it. But I like, especially being so pregnant, having someone helping me with it. And all 3 times I've done this, my mother-in-law, Jan, has been the one that's helped me. It's kind of like a fun thing that she and I did each time expecting a new baby. That's so special for us. And she really enjoys cooking just like I do. So it's always been really fun. And I'm the one that does all the planning and the buying of things, but she comes in and helps me with making it all. And it's looked different with each child, right? So when I did this, when I was pregnant with Colin, we just did it on a whatever random day. I didn't have kids yet. Scheduling work and stuff was a lot easier. And then when I was pregnant with Ethan and we had Colin, we did it on a day that Adam was home from work. And so she actually did less help on the meals that day and more help with Colin, while me and Adam did more of the meals because Colin was so excited that his Mimi was here. It was going to be hard to get him away from her for her to work in the kitchen with me. And then this third time, we did it on a day that I had childcare for both the boys and they were both out of the house. And Adam was also at work. So we did it on like a work day for me and got it all prepped. But anyway, get someone to help you with it all. Expect for, depending on how much you're making, for it not to all be done in one day, and kind of think strategically about the order in which you cook things. You can work on multiple dishes at once. Like you can do all the chopping at once. Like there's a lot of things you can do to make it really efficient. Another tip, it doesn't need to be a freezer meal dish in order to work well as a freezer meal. So this is something I learned second baby through. First time I was like trying to find out what freezer meals to make, and I'm just Googling on Pinterest only being like freezer meals. Like that's all I'm typing in. But anything that's like a casserole style dish typically can be really great as a freezer meal. Stuff that's pre-assembled and can go into a big Ziploc bag and then be put in the crock pot all together can also be great. My favorite style to do though, at least for lunches and dinners, is casserole style. And like I said, I love muffins for breakfast too and breakfast burritos, but just know that like there might be a recipe that you're already making consistently consistently in your life that would actually work really great as a freezer meal. And, you're going to freeze it not just in your regular, glass pan. You're going to buy special, different sizes. I'd highly recommend aluminum foil pans to freeze stuff into. On that note, freeze in smaller portions. So like, let's say you're making a casserole and you're doubling the recipe. So you're making like what this recipe is calling 2 casseroles. Instead of just freezing it into 2 casserole pans, freeze it into 4. So freeze it into smaller portions, because you have to think that like this, which we're going to talk about on tip number 8 coming up, but you might have a meal train. You might have people bringing you meals. You might be getting takeout more. You don't necessarily want like a huge serving of everything every time you want to thaw it. So freezing in smaller portions is really helpful. So those are my freezer meal tips. And if you're thinking right now, well, that's great, Elizabeth, but I'm listening to this at like 1 month postpartum and I did not do any of that. I wish I would have. I want to say that's okay. You really can start doing this whenever you want to, just by doubling things and freezing some in freezer containers. Like, again, this is something, like I was saying, that has just become part of how like I do cooking as a mom, that I started after having my first baby, and I keep up and I love it. And even like when I just had Colin and Ethan, before being pregnant again with Sofia, I got into a habit where every few weeks I was doing like a big freezer breakfast prep, so that I'd do like breakfast bagel sandwiches, English muffin sandwiches, breakfast burritos, breakfast muffins. Like I love doing breakfast freezer, and then it makes everything so easy in the morning. So anyway, it's not something that's just reserved for postpartum. You can actually just really use it in motherhood. So anyway, that was my rapid fire tips around freezer meals. And let me know if you would like an episode or a series on another podcast. I know it's not business related, but if you want to hear more about freezer meals, I would love to know that, so I know if that's something you guys are interested in. Okay, number 8, and this is the last one on the food front. So ask a friend to make you a meal train. So I'm a huge fan of meal trains for when a family has a new baby, and maybe it is a Southern thing or even a thing among my specific friends, but it is like among people I'm friends with and that my husband's friends with. It's like an expected thing that when someone has a baby, someone should be creating a meal train for them. And like, I am like, I'm going to bring you a meal when you have a baby. So we use mealtrain.com for this. It's free to use. There are like extra things you can pay for, but we use the free version every time. And I actually just logged into my meal train account and I looked, and I've personally been the one who was the organizer of the meal train for 7 different people over the past few years. And I've had 4 meal trains done for my family where I'm the recipient. So for one for each baby, and then one for when my dad passed away as well. And a meal train is what it sounds like, right? Is a calendar where people sign up to bring meals to someone. Usually dinner is typically the meal being brought. And the idea is that it's like a train that keeps going, so they're not doing their own cooking for a bit in like whatever this thing going on in their life is. And on the meal train, there's a recipient family, there's some photos. You can put in your food preferences, favorite dishes, favorite restaurants, the preferred drop-off time, your address, dietary restrictions, like whatever is, all that is like on this website. So that's why I'm saying like mealtrain.com worth using versus having a friend just be like, oh, want me to like ask some friends to bring you food? Like, no, use this website. The calendar function is really nice too, because maybe there is a night where you're like, no, we don't want anyone coming because we have family in town, or we won't be there, or we'll still be at the hospital. We actually don't want anyone here yet, whatever it is. So I love that website for it. But if you're approaching your due date for your baby and no one has offered to set a meal train up for you, or maybe this is something where you're like, wait, Elizabeth, I've never done this with my friends. This isn't typical among my friends who are having babies, all that. I would just say, ask a friend if they wouldn't mind setting this up for you. And then they would either text or email it out to people, or have you do it, like where you're the recipient of it and they're the creator, and then you just have the link that you're sending to people. Up to you how you do it. I've done it different for different friends. I've had friends where they give me the phone number of all the people they want this texted to. I've done it where you're entering email addresses. I've done it where the friend's like, actually just send it out to these 2 different group texts that we're both in, and then they're going to send it out to everyone else. You can do it all different ways. And I also, though, one thing you could do is ask a fellow expecting mom and offer to do one for them too. So like, maybe like, hey, you're pregnant, I'm pregnant, we're both due around the same time. Like, let's both do a meal train for each other. That could be another way to ask. But every time in our postpartum season, our meal train has truly just been one of the biggest blessings. So I do freezer meals like I just talked about, but this helps us not even really have to dive into the freezer meals yet, at least not dinners, in like the first 2 months. Like I literally did not start thawing really our freezer meals until I was 2 months postpartum. And actually some of the freezer meals, which is, again, you got to just know it's like, this is for you. You can do it on whatever timeline you want to. But we probably used like 3 or 4 of our freezer meals when I was between 40 and 41 weeks pregnant. And if you listen to Sophia's birth story, you heard about all this, but Ethan got really sick. We all got sick as a family. And during that time, part of me was like, oh, I'm like diving into our freezer meals already. I hate that. But like, it was so helpful then because I was in no position to want to cook or even like grocery shop. And so it was like, that was really helpful then. But anyway, freezer meals and the meal train really work together well to help you not have to deal with cooking. And it's also a sweet way to let friends and family come meet the baby if you want them to meet the baby in that way. More on that next. But this time, for example, since it's so fresh for me, Sophia was born at home. So I did not have the hospital stay beforehand where it's like, oh, we have to wait on the meal train until I'm home. But we did have it wait to get started because we did have so much family coming in and out and they were like providing meals. But my friend Sarah Clark did my meal train for us and also did hers because she had a baby about 3 months before me. So it really was like we traded on this. So like, hey, I'll do a meal train for you. You do a meal train for me. And so she made me a recipient of it on this meal train website. So I was able to edit the dates myself for when people sign up. She was just the one that created it and put in all the information about like our preferences and whatnot. But basically, we had the first week where it was like no signups because of all the family around. And then after that, we had a few nights a week where people could sign up. And I even had a special note on it that was like, hey, after this date, because Adam took like about a 3-week paternity leave. And so I put like after this date, that would be the most helpful time actually, because he's going to be gone. I'm going to be alone more with 3 children and having dinner taken care of will be really helpful. So some friends would come in and visit, and others would just leave it on the doorstep, just depending on the timing. And we also had some sweet non-local friends too, even do gift cards or order the food for us from a local restaurant and have it delivered to us, which is also really sweet. So very nice. So if you're hearing me say all this and you're like, free, that's nice to have a meal train, but like my community, my friends, they don't live where I live. Doing it through gift cards and DoorDash and things like that also work really well. One of my friends, Tori, actually, she had a baby a few years ago, and right when the baby was born, she was like had moved from living where I do, and I'd set up a meal train for her. And so she had no community really in this new place she was living, and all of us back here were sending her gift cards and still signing up for a meal train, helping in the ways we could, or getting like food delivered to her, all that. So it can work too if your community is not local to you. So anyway, that is number 8 though. Ask a friend to have a meal train, and again goes along with number 7 of make freezer meals. Okay, so just a few more tips here, and some of these I have a lot less to say about, like number 9. I just feel like I had to include this though, because this is such an important one, especially for new moms. So number 9, you don't have to see every visitor who comes to see you, even if they are kind enough to be bringing you a meal. So sometimes, people are bringing the meal and they want to come in and visit, or maybe you have someone that's just like, hey, can I stop by right now and see the baby? I'm just throwing it out there that you can say no. Okay. Again, short point here. I'm just telling you, giving you permission to say no. And I remember as a first time mom, and even last time and some this time, just getting overwhelmed at times where I'm like, oh my gosh, I don't feel like a visitor right now. Or Sophia, is going to be due to nurse when this person wants to come over. Or maybe you're like, oh, I just really want to like try to take a nap. I don't feel like getting ready right now for a visitor. I don't feel like getting my house ready. Maybe it's someone you don't feel like you're okay with how the house looks for them to come visit, like whatever it is. You can say like, oh my gosh, I appreciate this so much, and be obviously super thankful and thank them for the meal, but also be like, the timing isn't great, or ask them like, yes, I'm good to visit, but like, let's just make it 30 minutes, like kind of setting some of that stuff up ahead of time. You're allowed to do. That's as simple as the tip, because I think you can feel a lot of pressure at the end. It's like, let everyone hold your baby, let everyone see your baby, visit super long. You don't have to do it. And sometimes you will want to, right? Like I had a few times in this postpartum season I can think of where when I had a friend bring a meal train, I was feeling the like, stay forever. I'm so enjoying catching up on things, like just stay forever. Let's hang out. I love getting to talk to you and catch up. So like that happens too. We also had Some of our close friends, they brought us a takeout and brought their child too. And we all had dinner together at our house. And that was how they did the meal train. And she like held the baby while I ate and that sort of thing. So like those sweet moments are great. But just like if you are in a situation where you're like, it doesn't work for you right now to have someone come visit, you can say no. And you could also say like, please come and stay longer. Just don't be afraid to tell people what you need and what your hope is for whatever the situation is. Okay, number 10. Take all the photos and videos you want and be in the photos and videos too. So hand someone your phone and ask them to take a photo of you and your baby, or of you doing things with all your kids together, or a video where you're like, you're just naturally yourself with no makeup on, your hair's crazy and you're nursing your baby. Like it does not need to be a shareable photo to be an absolutely perfect memory and a favorite photo or favorite video that's just capturing the realities of motherhood for you right now. So some of my favorite photos in postpartum have been these moments where I hand out of my phone and say, hey, can you snap a photo of this? Or I'm taking a selfie of me and Sofia, or like just a photo of my kids with or without me in it, doing something mundane, a photo of Adam doing something sweet with the kids, like all of that. But the big takeaway in this one that I'm really just trying to say is be in the photos too, just as you are. And again, this is true for all of motherhood too. Easily, we can always just be behind the camera, getting the perfectly cute photo of our baby or our kids playing together or our husband with our kids. But, turn the camera around or ask someone to take a photo of you in it too. And again, I truly believe that some of your favorite photos from the postpartum season and favorite videos are going to be the ones where maybe you feel like they're the least Instagrammable, because those are some of the best moments, right? So anyway, just true for all of motherhood, be in the photos, take the photos and the videos. Okay, I've got 2, maybe 3 more if I do this last one too. So number 11, I hope I can speak well on this because I feel like this one is hard for me to even verbalize my thoughts on, and I don't have a lot of notes for it. But I want you to know and find comfort in the fact that things are going to be different with every baby. So something that was disappointing or hard in one postpartum season might just truly be different the next time. Basically, my point is that it doesn't necessarily just get harder and harder every time, and every baby is so different. And so it's really helpful not to compare experiences and know that just like every child is going to need something different, and you're evolving as a mother too. You're going to need something different each time. But like, just for example, I've had 3 kids now, and Sophia's still so little, right? She's 3 months old, but I have had a completely different feeding journey so far already with all 3 kids, and nursing has been the easiest for me this time with the 3rd baby. It certainly did not come without work. We've had lactation consultant, all of that, which has been so helpful. Cannot recommend that enough. But like with my first Colin, he had tongue and lip ties and a lot of stuff like that going on that made nursing really hard. And that was a huge struggle for me. We made it work. We supplement with formula too. I did like pumping around the clock and the triple feeding thing. I ultimately nursed him a really long time until he was basically 20 months old. And it was really hard to wean from nursing. So that was kind of like our experience there. And then with Ethan, it was just a completely different experience, right? He did not have any ties, which was awesome. Feeding was going really easy. And then we ended up also supplementing with formula, and he kind of ended up preferring a bottle. I did a lot of pumping and bottle feeding with him, and that was really hard for me in a lot of ways. So again, there's just like hard things about each one, but those they both had a lot of similar things, but also both a lot of different things. And I think like as you continue to have children and continue to have the different experiences, you kind of learn like what's most important to you to like try for, right? Like I remember, just to talk about feeding for a second, when Colin was a baby and I had a lactation consultant ask me like, what's your feeding goal with your baby? And I'm like, get through today is my feeding goal. Like, I don't know how long I want to nurse for. I'm just trying to like get through today because this is really, really, really hard. And this time I actually knew a bit more that like, okay, after having a bit of nursing refusal and a bottle preference, and I felt like that was really hard. It was a lot of work doing all the bottle washing. It was just a whole lot of work and I did not love it. I wish that we had been more just like exclusive nursing. That would have been my preferred goal. So like this time, I was able to know that like exclusively nursing, not really doing bottles is actually going to be my preference. So that's my goal, right? So that I've shared more about the feeding things that I was planning to for my 3 kids. But like, again, I'm just trying to say that there's been like disappointing and really great things about all the feeding experiences. And I've truly done it all, from like the nursing to bottle feeding with formula to bottle feeding with pumping, really experienced it all. And so you kind of figure out like, hey, what works best for you and what you prefer for this season with this baby and maybe what that baby prefers, right? But like one thing goes great with one and another thing's really hard. And then it might be the opposite problems the next time around. So just know though that every experience is going to be so different, and whatever like thing you might think of that like, let's say defines your sleep experience with your first, or your feeding experience, or maybe you struggle with postpartum anxiety or depression, or you didn't really take a maternity leave, or birth recovery was super hard or super easy, like whatever it is, it'll be different every time. And there will be some things that maybe are similar just because like that's how you are as a mother and how you do things, but things will be different. And try not to compare. Try not to compare your season with this baby to past babies, or not compare yourself to friends and what other people are going through. And just know that things are going to be different with every baby. And just a little bonus tips here, as I was just talking about feeding so much, even if you are bottle feeding primarily, again, whether it's that you're pumping or you're doing formula, both are great options. If you're bottle feeding though, you can still be the one feeding your baby. I think that can be a hard thing sometimes for women who are bottle feeding, especially in those early months of like, it's like, oh, anyone can feed the baby. So maybe you actually feel like, no, I'd rather just like do what Elizabeth's saying of just sitting in bed and snuggling with my baby, but we're bottle feeding. So like, you know, the grandma and the friend visiting, like everyone wants to feed the baby. You can actually just still be the one that you say you want to feed your baby. Like that's just my tip there, if that is how you feel about it. Okay. I have 2 more tips because I did decide I'm going to share this number 13 one that I do not have fully written out. It's just like one little note, but I feel like I'm just going to speak from the heart and we'll say some stuff about it. But this last one I have notes on. This is for my business owner friends. And again, if you don't own a business, you can also apply this here as well. This is going to be a short one. Business owners, plan for your maternity leave. Then enjoy the plan. Your business is going to be okay. So I've done many episodes on this podcast around the topic of planning a maternity leave, and I'm going to link to those in the blog for this episode. And I'll also write out the episode numbers in the show notes so you can find them. I did an episode after I think 2 for each of my boys' births of like what I'm doing to plan for maternity leave, how it went. So again, I think those can be so helpful. Many of you guys who are regular listeners have told me like that those had tips in them that helped you figure out how to plan maternity leave, because it is really hard to figure out. Okay. So those are great places to start. But you will never plan perfectly. And also there's always more to do in a business, right? That's the nature of business. So even if you are saying, I'm closing my laptop, I'm unplugging the podcast mic, I'm taking a break, I'm not going to use Instagram as much, I'm not going to post as much, there's always going to be more you can do. And so sometimes you have to just make the plan, execute the plan, and take the break. Simple as that. And so that's my simple, straightforward advice on maternity leave things. That's just like, let's boil it down. Like you just have to do it. You just have to take the leave and hope for the best sometimes. And this time with your baby at this particular age is only once. This time with your body is needing you to slow down in this way. It's also not all the time. So rest well. Take the break, savor the moments, unplug from your business. And I will also add that your business and the way you run it likely will never be back to like it was before kids, or even back to like it was when you just had 1 kid or when you just had 2 kids or whatever it is. Like every child is going to change things and evolve the way you run your business some. And then when they're older, things might be different again, right? Like it might be that once they're school age, I don't know yet, I haven't experienced that, but maybe you're able to dive back into your business in a different way than you are when they're in the little kid age. But similar to how it's like, you're not trying to get your body back to being the same way as it was before you had a baby, you're also not trying to run your business in the same way as before becoming a mom. Like the way you run your business is going to change through becoming a mother. And if you're anything like me, you may have an existential crisis upon becoming a mother with your business. And this is something you have to work through. Like I'm just kind of like, you feel like, oh my gosh, what am I doing? It's overwhelming doing it all. That was at least my own experience. Again, different podcast episode I could do on that, but it can be overwhelming adding a baby into a system that you feel like is working really well. You can feel like divided loves and all kinds of things, but you'll figure it out. That's my biggest piece of advice is like, it's hard. And when you feel really overwhelmed, know that you'll get more into a rhythm and you will figure out how to do business well and how to do motherhood well together. But just start by taking the break. taking the break. And I promise you guys, I see it all the time of women sharing that like they're so sad that like they never actually took a maternity break. I was in the hospital posting a reel. I was in the hospital launching a client's website from the hospital bed with my laptop. And like I only took 1 week and then I was back on a Zoom coaching call. Like I see that all the time. You guys probably do too. No one ever tells you that they don't regret that. You aren't going to hear people say, I'm so glad that I brought my laptop to the hospital room and did the launch when I was 3 days postpartum. No one says that. What people do say is they wish they could do that over and do it differently. So hear that advice and take the break and savor the moment to do the work that sounds fun and engaging to you maybe. But generally speaking, like take the break you planned to take. All right, my final tip, number 13, this is a good one to close on. Don't compare your motherhood or your postpartum journey to that of other moms. So talk about it with each other. Utilize helpful resources like this podcast and other things you find to help you learn and grow as a mother. But just resist the urge to compare and know that like what makes something go easier or harder is like 100 different factors all put together, right? And comparing when you don't have someone's full story, or maybe you do, and your story is just so different, it's just never going to help you. I remember this so vividly when I think back with my first, who we had a lot of feeding issues with. Like I said, he had tongue and lip ties. He also had a head preference, and he really struggled with sleep. And I remember, always hearing like people say the phrase like sleep like a baby, and like babies sleep so easy, they just sleep anywhere. And he would not sleep. I mean, we were doing like swaddled, held naps in a dark nursery when he was like a week old, because just sleeping out in a lit room and things like that was just really not working for him, right? And I was fine. It all worked out. And we got through that. And he does sleep better now, although still not a great sleeper at this age. But anyway, I remember at that time having similar friends in similar seasons of life, and their babies are just like sleeping easily. They're already sleeping through the night early. And I would often be like, what am I doing wrong that my baby won't sleep? Like maybe I haven't taken the right course or read the right book. And it's just some babies are just going to like not sleep as well. And that's what I'm saying. Like you just can't compare. There's so many different factors that play into things. And so like this, for me, it was like this mom over here that seems really well rested and just has a baby nap in the stroller on the go while she's having a coffee. Like I couldn't relate to that because that was not my own experience. And it's helpful to just not compare. And in the postpartum season, places like Instagram can become a really triggering and challenging place for comparison. So if that's how you're experiencing it, I would encourage you to like get off, stop the scroll. We can be on social media a lot really easily when we're feeding a baby so often and up throughout the night and things like that. So maybe consider like, is this actually helping me or hurting me? And maybe do it some, but then if it feels like it's hurting you, it might be a really good idea to switch your focus when you are on your phone. Because again, you're going to be on your phone some when you're just sitting there feeding a baby a lot. And sometimes you need to be on your phone at night to like stay awake for a feed and things like that. But when you're on your phone, maybe it's that you're reading a book, like reading an ebook or reading an article or reading the Bible on your Bible app. Like there are other things you can do besides scrolling social media, which again can be a place, especially in postpartum, where at least for me, it doesn't always leave me feeling good. So yeah, that's my final tip there is just don't compare to other moms. And this episode, as I often say, is longer than I was expecting it to be. And y'all probably will not be able to tell this whatsoever in the final version, but I have been interrupted approximately 100 times as I've been recording this. All 3 of my kids are home today. Adam, my husband, is also home. And so I started recording this morning while baby's napping. He was with the boys. And then I started up again just now while he's working. And all 3 kids are in the crib, or at Colin's not in the crib, but they're all down for naps or rest time. So Ethan and Sofia are in crib naps. Colin is in his room playing, and Colin's been coming down being like, when's rest time going to end? So anyway, hopefully this all comes together well, but I have been recording this in little tiny stints. So anyway, guys, that's it. My best tips for the postpartum season. Again, I have a lot more I could say about this, but these are the ones that like came to mind the most as I reflect back on the last 3 months, especially that like first month postpartum that I hope is helpful to you. And again, if you missed the other episodes in these episodes I've done about Sofia's birth and postpartum and pregnancy, go back to episode 320, 319, and 318, all right before this. And then I'm also going to link up in the show notes for you to the other postpartum and maternity leave planning episodes I've done, to my other kids' birth stories. Also, if you're curious about home birth resources, you can go to elizabethmccravey.com/birth, and there's a whole blog where I link to stuff relating to her home birth and VBAC resources and all of that. So anyway, next week on the podcast, we'll be back to like regularly scheduled, mostly business episodes, but I so hope you've enjoyed these kind of reflection on birth and postpartum episodes I've done. I've certainly enjoyed recording them, and I really hope they bless you in your life and your business. All right, I'll see you guys next week. Bye.
Thank you for listening to the podcast, friend. I appreciate you being here. That just flew by, didn't it? Hey, if you enjoyed this episode, I really want to encourage you to check out my website where you will find tons of resources to help you grow a profitable and sustainable business. Over on elizabethmccravey.com, you'll find things like free workbooks, guides, quizzes, lock screens, and checklists to encourage you in your business, help you grow, and give you practical solutions to many business problems. You'll also find my top business tools. Like, yes, I literally list out all the major ones for you on my website. And I even have a lot of special discounts and offers for you guys to snag as you try these products, services, and softwares. If you want to take the podcast content and make it super actionable, my resource page is here to help. So go to elizabethmccravey.com/tools to access everything. I hope you have fun exploring all of it over there. And if you loved this episode, leave a rating and review for the show wherever you're listening, or share with a friend. That's a great way to support the podcast, and I appreciate it so much. Thanks again so much for listening. I'll be back next week with a new episode. Bye for now. If managing your business's finances feels daunting and you typically come to the end of the month not sure how to pay yourself, or if you're doing the business savings thing, quote unquote, right, then I have a free guide for you. Over my 9 years of business, I've learned some financial skills the hard way, and a few years ago, I developed an 8-step process I go through at the end of each month. This process helps me know how my business is doing financially, pay myself well, and allocate money for things like taxes and expenses, and also document notes about the month that'll help me make financial decisions in the future. Again, I've been doing this process since early 2023, and it truly has changed the way I do my business for the better and has helped me ultimately make more money. And I want to help you do the same. So you can grab this 8-step process literally for free at elizabethmccravey.com/profit. There's a whole PDF guide for you there that you can download and go through for free. That's elizabethmccravey.com/profit.